Yoshi, a very iconic and beloved character when it comes to Mario's group of friends. Whether he is racing karts or getting overanalyzed by MatPat, one thing I know for sure is that I didn't do him justice in my video talking about Yoshi and Nabbit. And for me, I feel it's important that I make sure I'm not just pushing out wrong information, and so for this video we are talking about Yoshi, or more about Yoshi, and I'm not sure how long this video is going to be. But all I ask is that you just stay with me till the end to see what I have to say. So let's get going. I wish to start by talking about some comments from the previous video listing out some games that I missed. The first one being Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island, where Yoshi was playable and was given his signature flutter jump ability as well as a few others. I mostly skipped over this game in the original video because I didn't consider it to be a mainline Mario game, which multiple people said was wrong. But when digging for this video, I found that there has never been an official mainline Mario games list made by Nintendo, with the closest thing being Nintendo's official Mario History section, which doesn't even list the game. With this knowledge, I can safely say that we are all correct and incorrect, since none of us know what games to use. Please, for the love of God, Nintendo, give us an official list to end the conversation. But to stay fair with the previous video, here are the rules that not only will be following this video, but we also were sort of following along last video. The first one, it must be a Super Mario platformer, meaning that it has to have the title of Super Mario in there somewhere. So that's to get things like Mario Kart out of here, since there's no way in hell that is a mainline game. Secondly, Mario must be the or a main character, meaning that he must be playable in some way, which is part of the reason why the original Yoshi's Island was ignored, because Mario isn't playable. So, kinda makes sense. Thirdly, the game must have been released on an official Nintendo console. This is so that Super Mario Run can be left out of this, okay? Yes, it has Yoshi, but no way in hell is this game going to be fair to compare to everything else. And I think that kind of rhymed. I don't know. Anyway, fourth, games that are remakes, ports, or something similar are not allowed. This was something that I was doing last episode, which left out games like Mario 64 DS. So, yeah, there's that. And then for this video specifically, we added the must-have Yoshi in some way rule so that we could talk about Yoshi games, since it's a video talking about Yoshi. Or it's hard for me to explain, but basically there's going to be many exceptions to these rules, since this video is talking specifically about Yoshi, and more so we're talking about Yoshi's abilities more often than his actual story history. So let's keep that in mind. With these rules, this here is our list of Mario games, or at least the games that we'll be talking about, maybe not discussing, who knows. But this is the basic outline of what we're doing here. Obviously, there are going to be many exceptions, like I said, but I'm mostly just hoping that this sort of clears up why some games weren't discussed in the last video, and which games are considered to be mainline by most people within the fandom, which, by the way, those first four rules that I put in, those are what most people follow when talking about mainline. Now let's talk about Yoshi's history of abilities and stuff like that, starting with Super Mario World in 1990, which makes Yoshi 33 years. That's insane. Either way, he had multiple abilities outside of normal eating abilities, with enemies and fruits, and that was done by giving 6 different colored Yoshis, yes, 6 different colors, all of which did something different, those being green being able to spit fire, blue was able to fly like a dragon out of Clash of Clans, yellow impersonated Sonic, pink used a ground pound ability, red could reduce roaches to atoms, and white literally had plot armor. This kept the game fresh, and yet at the same time, as far as I am aware, it didn't seem like this was ever used again. So that's kind of sad. By the way, moving on. The second game that Yoshi would appear in is Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island, released in 1995. As said before, I skipped Yoshi's Island because it didn't fit the idea of a mainline Mario game, but was pointed out that I shouldn't have skipped it because Yoshi's Flutter Jump ability was given here. So, there's that. He also was able to ground pound and do stuff with eggs. I'm not thinking about that. And just, that's mainly the important stuff there. It's, I guess. The timeline of these Yoshi's Island games are also a bit iffy, and I'm just going to steer clear of it for now. We move forward past Mario 64, and don't worry, we're going to discuss the DS version later. We're now in 1997 with Yoshi's Story. In terms of abilities, there's only one new thing, and it's sniffing the ground for drugs, where you will then find some, be arrested for their possession, go to prison for a year, and emerge as a Catholic. The other interesting piece of this game is its story, which can be described as 6 infants risking their lives to steal a tree from another infant by using the power of friendship and a gun they found. But other than that, yeah, we can swiftly move on past this game, because this game specifically hurt my buddy's head, and now he's in a mental hospital. Going from 1997 to 2004, we have Mario 64 DS, which, while pointed out by some Yoshi was playable, it's a remake. It's confirmed to be a remake, and it was skipped. The story isn't new. None of Yoshi's abilities, as far as I found, were new. So we're moving past that. I'm sorry, but there's nothing new there. In 2006, Yoshi's Island DS was released, and according to my notes, nothing of interest in this game is there other than the ability to change forms, which gave us God's worst creations. Yeah, I can see that. The story was also quite simple as well, since it overall follows the same plot as the original Yoshi's Island, which caused some confusion. But otherwise, a game that doesn't really change anything for Yoshi, so we're gonna move onwards. And now, we get to Yoshi's New Island. This game caused me a lot of problems, including sadness. Not from the game, but from the problem that it made in the script. Let me explain. It took me and my buddy about 30, maybe 40 minutes, and a blueprint-making site to determine the timeline of the Yoshi Island games. We sounded insane. And if you don't believe me, here's some clips from the conversation. Let's do this. So, to start off, the timeline should start with Yoshi's Island, right?
Yeah.
Yoshi's Story, which is said to be a sequel, according to this. Yoshi's Island DS. God, I can always say it. Anyway, so Yoshi's Island is the start. We then have the sequel of Yoshi's Story. However, we also have the sequel of Yoshi's Island DS.
I already want to kill myself. So is it like Yoshi's Island DS is the exact same as Yoshi's Story, or
No. Alright, so Yoshi's Story is its own separate adventure.
Oh my god, it's its own separate thing. So
And
we have Yoshi's Island
DS
Yoshi's
is the
Island
direct sequel.
DS. Direct sequel.
And then what about Yoshi's New Island? You said it follows the
It's-
direct, like the events directly after.
It immediately follows the events directly after Super Mario World 2.
Ignoring all the timeline, or like the time traveling stuff.
Yes.
Here's the timeline of all the Yoshi games here. Yoshi's Island, followed by Yoshi's New Island, followed by Yoshi's Island DS. And then Yoshi's Story is
Yoshi's
its own
Story
thing.
is
That
just
happens
kinda-
sometime after Yoshi's New Island. Fuck this, man. I'm getting something to drink.
A few moments later.
Okay, I'm back. Where was I? Yoshi's New Island. Here we go. Yoshi's Woolly and Craft Corps, of course. I'm not going to talk about these games since these games don't really do much. As far as I found, there weren't really any new abilities other than in Woolly World's, like, yarn throwing ability, which I pretty much just see as the egg abilities from past games, but with a bit more application in its use. So, yeah, and they're not sequels to any Yoshi games. Just keep that in mind. So, with everything that we have learned, what can we take away? Well, firstly, Yoshi is 33 years old, which is insane. And second, when inside Yoshi's line of games, Yoshi has gone through some unholy forms and has gained some weird abilities involving eggs. So, whatever. But just know that our modern day Yoshi has been nerfed in a way to make sure that we aren't throwing eggs at each other while racing wigglers. I know that this is not the best video talking about Yoshi, but I feel like, considering that it's just a rough look into it, that I got the most important information out there. That being abilities throughout the years and what has changed from the start. So with that, I'll stay here, continuing to figure out what my next pieces of projects and creativity are going to be while getting eggs thrown on my face. So I'll see you next time.